Let's see. Just give me a quick minute to get situated. I am live, right? Sorry. Gonna bring up the desktop. Easy to see you guys. Take care of a little bit of business as we chat and catch up. Squirrel Sniper is gonna come up once we get a few people here. Hey, Heavenly Star. Heavenly Star says, yes, Yogi Bear. Well, I'm glad you're here, Heavenly Star. How are you? You have been in my thoughts. You've been in my prayers. Heavenly Star says, yes, Yogi Bear. Well, I'm glad you're here. Sorry. No one needs a double dose of yogi. Hey, Lee. Lee, how are you? Man, you missed a fantastic talk with my friend Tim. Heavenly says I'm okay. Sniper will be up in a little bit. He said he was going to give me a few minutes to, you know, say hi to you guys, see if anyone wanted to do some breath work. What Sniper wanted to talk about was geomancy. Geomancy. I do not know much about that. And sacred geometry. I have an interest in sacred geometry. I do not know a ton. Only kind of math I'm really interested in. He was a mathematician. He said that basically the universe speaks in math. Hey, Kat. Hey, Darren. Let's see. Heavenly says, helping sister Kat, making sure no one disrespects her live stream. Nice. That does not happen often with Kat. Kat draws just the right people to her. Kat said, like done. You beat me to liking my own stream. Heavenly says, there's my beautiful sister Kat. Lee, how's your day been? I'm setting up the live stream for tomorrow morning very quickly. Kat says, I am very lucky. A lot of that has to do with the person that you are, Kat. Hey, Selma. All right. Let's dive in. Hey, Michael. Michael, how are you? Everyone's saying hi. Selma, how are you? How's everything with Jackson? I'm going to send the link to Sniper. Sorry, guys. Lee says, hey, Selma, how are you? Almost ready. So before Hey, John. John says, "You are alone. Every mind aligned with love strengthens the collective field of peace." Thank you, John. Coming in with a strong message. Someone says, "Yes, she's okay." Dee says, "I couldn't miss Sniper. For me, selfishly, it's an opportunity to learn." So I wasn't participating in the chat a whole lot this afternoon because I had my focus on Tim. Lee, did you have a chance to stop in to listen to Tim? Heavenly says, "There's a beautiful hummingbird in Cat's live stream." Nice. Someone says, "Yes, he's nice." Hey, Abigail. Abigail says, "It's double tapping everyone. Welcome in." Thank you, my friend. He says, "Yeah, I've been trekking today, just a few miles, a gentle course inspired by Randy." Oh, wow. I will pass that on to him. He'll be definitely pleased to hear that, Lee. What do you think? You got an ultra marathon in you somewhere? Easier than you think. We got some love from Kat. Lee says, "Yeah, got to rewatch tomorrow. Sounds like I missed a good life." It was very good. Everything aligned so perfectly for it to happen. Abigail says, "Love you, Kat." Abigail says, "Yes." Someone says, "My boyfriend Jackson hugged me at school today. Hug you at school all day. I love him so much. Feel good." Abigail says, "I miss you, Shirley." She might pop up in the background as she does like to catch Sniper quite a bit. Abigail went to work today. How was work today, Abigail? And he says, "Tim said some good stuff, some good input." Thank you, Heavenly. Thank you for being there. Someone says, "Shirley says she doesn't come to this live anymore." She doesn't seem to, does she? Miss Pippa says, "Aligning perfectly is good sounding." It is. Pippa says, "I'm here 5 minutes." Gotcha. You guys want to do quick breath work, 5 minutes worth before Sniper shows up? Give me a thumbs up and we can do something. It does make me a little sad to consider that Shirley doesn't like to pop up anymore. Kat says, "Well, we sure miss Shirley, and we'll gladly welcome her if she does come in." We sure will. Miss Flipper sends is that a squirrel or a chipmunk? Heavenly gives us a thumbs up. John says thumbs up. All right, we're going to do something a little different. Do you guys remember the 3-part yogic breath? It's in 3 parts. Imagine that. We fill the belly up. We breathe in through the nose, filling the belly up. And then we expand the rib cage to the side as we breathe in a little higher. And then we breathe all the way up into the clavicles. And then we breathe from the clavicles, exhaling, rib cage, belly. So it's I normally put one hand on the belly, one hand on my chest so I can feel that breath. Really good way to do it. But what I want to do, put a hand on that heart space. We're going to do 3 to 5 mindful breaths. I'm going to do it with you, and I'm going to guide you at the very same time. So we're going to sit. We're going to relax. Let the shoulders drop nice and heavy. Feet sinking into the ground beneath us. We're going to take a first breath in through the nose and fill the belly. Keep going. Expand the rib cage. High up in the chest. Hand on the heart center. Exhale through the nose from the clavicles, rib cage, belly. Breathe in through the nose, filling the belly, rib cage, all the way up into the clavicles, and reverse it. Right on the heart space. Breath number 3. Breathe in through the nose. Expand. High. And reverse. Breath number 4. Breathe in through the nose. Continue to the rib cage. High up in the chest. Exhale. One more breath. Breathe in through the nose. Expand the rib cage. And high up. And reverse. And that's it. Hello, Carl. Hey, Big Al. Appreciate you leaving a like. I hope you feel better, Big Al. Cat says meow, as cats tend to do. Hey, Tim. Tim, my friend, how are you? Abigail says, I got your back, cat. Abigail says, love you, cat. Abigail says, hi, Selma, I'm not staying. He's not feeling well, Selma. Carl says, I have a surprise for cat. Awesome. When's the surprise going to be announced, Carl? Cat says, oh, thanks so much, Heavenly. Abigail says, just double tapping everyone. Welcome in. Thank you, guys. Abigail says, we're good, Yogi, just unwell. We'll see you tomorrow. Got you. Cat says, huge hugs to Cat. Abigail says, Zabi Lee Lou. Miss Pippa says, hi, Selma. Congrats for hug. Love day with boyfriend. He says, Big Al, hope you feel better soon. Abigail's helping everyone mod. You're such a big help, Abigail. Tim says hi to Lee. Lee says, you're a wonderful mod. She sure is. Heavenly gives a big hug to Sister Cat. So Sniper is going to talk. He said about 45 minutes or so. Sacred geometry, geomancy. I'm kind of curious the difference between if there is geomancy. No, I'm probably saying that wrong. And feng shui, which I'm also pretty sure I'm saying wrong. Hey, hi. Bro, can you please listen to my song right now? Probably not right now, but if you drop a link, I can try to get to it. Carl says, that's if Kat wants to become a managing moderator for me. Oh, wow. Let's see what she says. Miss Pippa says, he's tiny and which church, Abigail? Emily says, that's a good idea to Carl. Emily says, cool, powerhouse. Please try to listen. You going to drop a link? Abigail says, Fairmont, West Virginia. Tim says, how are you, Carl? Good question, Carl. How are you? Carl will be live streaming this Thursday. Hey, Coffee Cake. How are you, my friend? John says, tomorrow, never know. Beatles, turn off your mind, relax, float down the stream. Absolutely love the Beatles, John. Carl says, I would do that for you, Carl, but I would be sad I couldn't comment on your videos. That's true. You always lose something, right? Everyone says, had a coffee. Carl says, we've been better, Tim. I'm sorry, Carl. Everyone's saying hi. Hey, Brian. Brian says, so Yogi and everyone, have a blessed day. Gonna finish my live now. Awesome. Thanks for popping in, Brian. Abigail says, I like to sing. Surprisingly, I like to sing too. So we're just waiting for whenever Sniper's ready. Carl says, it's shorts you can't comment on, Cat. There he is, guys. Hey, Sniper.
Hello, hello. How's everyone?
How are you today?
Yeah, good. Just plugging you in so my battery doesn't die. There you go. Yeah, busy day, busy week so far.
And it's only Tuesday.
And it's only Tuesday, yeah. So far I've done 3 days in 2.
Wow.
Well, that was what was on the book anyway.
What's on
Good evening,
the
everyone.
lesson tonight? What's on the agenda?
Well, I was going to deep dive into remote viewing first of all, and I thought, well, you know, it's quite a full-on subject, so you can't really just skip over the top of it. I mean, you can, but there'll be more questions than answers. So it's kind of, I thought while I was still talking about dowsing last week, where it all kind of originated from was kind of almost like a sideline from looking for water. You know, it's a tool, but why and where and how and all the questions that add to it comes from the geomancy side of the sacred geometry. Now, where I was going to say, where do we start? We start with lighter first of all. Find my lighter. So, have you ever found yourself in a place where you've just wanted to sit down and just relax? You felt it's like, you know, the right spot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that place, you might have instinctively kind of used your body as dowsing to find a node, an energy center, where you're picking up on these frequencies which balance you and harmonize you. Now, the idea of ley lines goes back to a guy called Alfred Walkins. He was around predominantly in the 60s and 70s. He was talking about the direct, visible monuments that are in line. And he was using his he was a dowser as well, and he was the one that came up with the term of ley line. So the terminology really hasn't been around for very long, 100 years, you know. But the esoterical side of ley lines, as we know it in ancient cultures, and I've personally found this, is that the ley lines aren't in a straight line. Now, we see them in books, but we're looking at a bigger picture, that they do cross through all of these amazing sites, but there are smaller sites in between those bigger sites, and the energy line actually snakes its way through the countryside to the left, to the right, following a stream, following different paths until it gets to these monuments which have been already picked out by our ancestors as these crossing points where two of these lines cross over. They're like the meridian points in our bodies. So it's kind of we have the eastern, I believe they call them the dragon lines, and they were called dragon lines here for a little period in time. I think in Europe as well, but in the Aztecs, they were, and Americas, they were called the serpent lines, I believe. There were lots of serpent mounds as well. So we're kind of, it's not just a mythological creature. They were more of a metaphor for these pulsing energies, on a telluric energy straight from the earth. And we kind of, we think of them as kind of veins in our bodies, if you were to do acupuncture, say, to release pressure and to balance, to unblock. Well, some believe that our ancient geomancers, that the ancient builders built their structures on these powerful points, either to balance and harmonize Earth's own energies, or to use them themselves for healing properties, sharing that experience on the node. They weren't just looking for straight lines. They were looking for these points, using dowsing as well to locate these points. That brings us to a question: if the landscape around us crisscrosses with all these invisible rivers of energy, how does that change how you see the hills and the rivers? Does that change the image of how they're made? Water always flows downstream. You always know that we always build downstream. We always know how to get home downstream. There's always civilization downstream. There's a pause there. That's a talk. So we'll go on to the actual geomancing now. With you, the original geomancy is kind of twofold. It's if you were to describe geomancy, it's almost like fortune telling with marks in the sand. Is how they kind of describe it. You're using your intuition with everything around you. You'd look for a tree which would be gnarly. It'd be unusually twisted. You know, possibly a spring that never dries out. You know, these points of interest are there for a reason. You know, a formation of rocks that completely looks out of place. You know, these rocks have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years, but they've been placed there because of this location. It's that reason why these stones are there in that formation. You know, um, they could be the indicators of where these energy nodes are. Especially as you know, water is a life source that requires finding. You know, from life itself. Every life will find water, animal, human, and you always go to the source, and it's there given to you by source. And 9 times out of 10, you'll be finding that it's under a rainbow. You know, and as I said before, the rainbows rotate around these energies, which are the nodes of the 2 crossed paths of these ley lines.
Think that's a metaphor for the pot of gold?
Absolutely, yeah. Because you know, it's the fact that there will be an underground well under there, and you'll find that many castles will have a rainbow over the top, and you'll find that many castles have underground wells. You know, it's all connected. Everything goes back. You know, castles are built on top of castles. We always have one. So geomancy. So the actual guys in the field, you know, they were looking for all these signs. They weren't just looking for you know, finding these nodes. It's great fun doing it, but not only that, it's a spiritual quest. Don't forget, because these places are connected with our ancestors themselves. You know, you're tapping into the energies that they were tapping into at the time. You know, it's I believe they were almost creating a doorway on these areas, not to disappear and go into different realms or different planets, you know, like Stargate or anything, but doors that you can access this energy, you know, either for healing vibration or, you know, or you can put your energy back into the grid if you wish. You know, I think that's quite an important thing that they were doing back then. You know, you have great parties at Glastonbury and Avebury. They're there for a purpose. You know, they were there to bring everyone together. The whole homage to Glastonbury every year. It was along the South Downs, all the way across the whole south of England. There is a track going from west to east, which goes through where you would have to go to meet everyone for this one time of the year for solstice. You know, we will start on so just like we can feel the warmth of the sun, right? Or the slightest breeze, you know, our senses pick these up, right? But our bodies are much more capable of even more subtle vibrations of energy. And I don't think back then that they were guessing. I think they were very finely tuned, you know, into locating these sites. The amount of churches the amount of cathedrals, and their designs when they were originally built, with sacred geometry involved in the actual dimensions. And not only that, but where they are. You know, it's all to do with Christ coming through the door, going out the window, the east to the west. It's all positioned as a ritual. It's all an energy. I don't know if you know that. The way that the positions of the churches.
No, I don't find it very surprising though.
Mm.
Does make
Very
sense.
occultic, you know. Yeah. Even though that they were against witchcraft themselves, it's a very witchcrafty thing to do. But then they took all that from the Druids, where they got the divine sacred geometry from in the first place. You know, it's stealing another's and then suppressing that information and then ridiculing it whilst keeping it themselves hidden. No, it's not. I do like Manny from Jackass though. He's the one that goes crocodile hunting, isn't he?
I've
He's the
never
guy.
actually seen Jackass before.
Yeah. He goes swimming with freshwater crocodiles and
Huh.
he has fun with them. Yeah. So another question: if the ancient people saw themselves as part of this living system, working and healing to balance the earth through the sacred sites, what does it say about our own modern responsibility to the land?
It's a tough subject
Mm.
because I don't think we as a modern society have had overall collectively respect for the land in quite some time.
No.
We've lost touch.
I think you're right there. I think it's been drummed out of us through the Industrial Revolution. How easy everything is thrown away. How everything can be made for so cheap. Nothing is worth it anything anymore, you know. Whereas
Right.
before there was a time where you would reuse everything because it was sacred. When something doesn't become sacred anymore, you know,
Agreed.
you cherish the things that you hold.
So how did that come about?
Well, I think we, you know, if we understand the earth is more alive than we believe it's taught to be, and that our ancestors didn't just build these sites for their own gain. You know, I believe that they built these sites for us to remember. You know, all of these monuments of the past, they're not forgotten. They're not forgotten. And they have this magical thing about them. Even without being told they're magical.
I find it promising that people seem to be drawn to those places.
Mm.
I find it discouraging that they are drawn to them, but also want to market them. Look at Yosemite; it becomes a small city, in the tourist season.
Yeah. Oh well, even the Heritage Centre. You know, they've put a car park there so far away and they do a little minibus shuttle service themselves, which costs you £20 a ticket just to get on this little minibus to get from the car that you've been in for the last 5 hours driving across the UK in, to then have to get a 10-minute drive by minibus.
Hey, are you up for answering a question from Nightmare?
Please do, yeah.
It's a big one. But who built the pyramids?
Good question. Well, some say it was Inky. It was certainly a intelligent being that understood the calendrics of reciprocal projections with a dualistic purpose in both directions. We get our measurement, the inch, the imperial inch, we get from the pyramid. There is a stone in the Queen's chamber which is protruding. It's made of the same stone, but it's protruding, and it's exactly a cubic inch. And this is what it stands out for that reason, is this is the measurement. You have to measure everything in the pyramids with. And so everything is measured with the cubic inch. And this is where we get our imperial inch from in the UK. The pyramids is a calendar. It's a calendar that you can decode our past with, and also our present.
Do you find any connection? Do you believe any connection between pyramids, places like Stonehenge, and the Serpent Mounds, Easter Island? Are these things separate accidental occurrences of something sacred being delivered, or are they a global event?
We were separated at one point as a nation. We were separated. Either through a cataclysm, and we lost all our knowledge, all our technology. But there were things that we did keep. And that was the fact that we wanted to get out here. We wanted to get out of here. The story of Babel. They built the tower. It's the same as the pyramid. They built the pyramid. You know, it's a way of escaping this reality.
What do you know of Plum Island?
Plum Island?
Yep. Jonathan says, oh, I want to talk Plum Island.
I will have to look up that. It may be under something else, or I may have heard it as something else. He says Jesus with a question mark. Is that the Jesus with the J before the Latin? Because the J was only introduced to the English language in the 17th century. So it was Jesus before that.
Dan says they changed the DNA. Man supposedly lived to 800 years before flood.
Well, I don't think they changed the DNA. I think the atmosphere changed. The flood changed the atmosphere. The flood was the atmosphere before the flood. The flood was a vapor canopy that was in the sky. It was like the place where Luke Skywalker went to find Yoda. It was like the world was a swamp back then. And then the sky collapsed, created the floods. But before then, the atmosphere was much, much different. Animals grew much bigger. So I suppose you would be living longer.
Adam has a question for Sniper. How old are the pyramids?
How old are the pyramids? Right, well, I'll have to get my old books out. But I've got the pyramids down at 5,000 years. And the biblical flood was 2,000. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I think it was 2,978 BC. And so they were underwater for 380 years at one point in their life. And the Sphinx was never a cat. The Sphinx before the deluge was Anubis, the dog. Now we have Orion's belt in the sky, which the pyramids align with. Orion is the hunter, and the constellation by the hunter's feet is the dog star Sirius.
I have that on AI right now as you speak.
There we are. Now, Sirius is worshipped by many a Freemasonic secret society who
As
are
well
very
as-
Egyptian.
as well as the Dogon people.
Exactly. Now, spiritually, this is where we get the dog and the god forwards and backwards. I think we do get a lot of etymology and how we come across things. When we look at a dog, we get unconditional love. A dog will attack you if you're in fear of the dog. The dog will know. It has a sixth sense. Very much like the cats, and the Egyptians worship the cat as well.
So here's a question. Of course, it'd probably be, hi, Mark.
I can walk on a watermark. It just has to be frozen.
The Dogon tribe has a very complex mapping of the.
Mr. Blipper is confused. Sorry, I just want to. Anubis. Anubis was the Egyptian dog. I think you're thinking of the three-headed dog in Greek mythology that Jason fought. But yeah, the Sirius is guarding Orion the hunter in the sky, and as above, so below. The pyramid the Great Pyramid was guarded by the Sphinx, which was Anubis. Now, during the deluge, the head of Anubis came off. And then when the next pharaohs came around, they decided to carve the face that we know in as what you see today. And of course, we only found the pyramids at the end of the 1800s, Napoleonic Wars. And even then, that was kind of shoddy, Cerberus, indeed.
I'm interested in how the Dogon tribe had the complex mapping of Sirius B, which isn't visible to the naked eye.
I think the Chinese were most amazing sailors. They sailed the seas and they had the best maps ever. They had maps of America. They were trading with the Egyptians, the Chinese, with what they found in America. In Egypt tombs, they found opium and cocaine. Can only come from two places in the world. So the trade route always came through Egypt.
Interesting. Hey, this is slightly off topic, but on topic of where we are right now. Who do you think came to North America, South America first, even before the Vikings? You think the Chinese? There's lots of books that said the Chinese, Polynesians, perhaps.
Well, the Native American Indian were black. If you look at the oldest drawings, some of the oldest tapestry, even in, I think it's in the Washington Oval in the White House, there is a painting of, I think it's Thanksgiving, and that's a giveaway. I think Hollywood has played a real stinky part on their behalf. The cowboys and Indians, as we know it. Unfortunately, there is a big narrative being played there as well, I believe. We have many skulls, many large skulls, I should say, found all over America with red hair. Many with red hair.
John has a nice reply. Mystically, the lesson is clear. The universe reveals itself to those who are fully present, listening and attuned, not just to instruments, but to living awareness.
Exactly. It's about the vibration. It's about the resonance inside. When something really resonates with you, you don't have to defend the truth. But when someone's telling a lie, geez, you got to remember a lot of facts. You got to remember everything. And some of the best liars are psychopaths because they have to remember so many things. Where when you're just searching for the truth, it's a vibration. It's a knowing.
You want to open things up to see if anyone has questions for you?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
Guys, any questions for Sniper? Sunbrew, my friend, welcome in. I've heard myself Chinese being here well before Columbus, well before the Vikings. I've also heard Africans here much earlier than we expected.
Yeah.
Carl says, Merlin the Wizard.
Hey,
Welcome
Carl.
back, Carl.
I'll try and magic you up a train next time. Any questions?
I wonder if, hey, Chandra, ley lines under the ocean, if they connect a lot of these ancient sites in ways that we have yet to uncover. That there's
Absolutely. From what I have found out is that at the ends of the land that we have in the UK, at least, on all of the major ley lines that we have, there are lighthouses.
remember you mentioning that 1 or 2 live streams ago. Miss Pepper says, "What can you tell us about non-participants? What were they called?"
What were they called? NPCs. Well, there is a thought that there are only an amount of souls in this realm. And not everyone gets reincarnated. The ones that get reincarnated eventually recognize that they are almost alone in the world, except when times like this, when we get together with other people that are not NPCs, and they are just background characters that have no empathy and they are part of the matrix that creates the mass consensus of reality. And it is for the individual to discern what is reality and whether or not that they are part of the collective or their own reality from what they can perceive. That's the NPC. Who knows what percentage? There was never it's just a concept of, if we are in a game, there are so many characters. Not everyone definitely intermingles and wants to intermingle. This is the key. Those with souls want to connect to other souls.
Miss Pepper
We're not
says, like,
programmed with a troll mind that wants to go out and disrupt what any 2 other souls are doing at that moment in time, because that's part of the AIX is what it's called. The glitch in the programming, the gremlin, the cheeky monkeys that take you off of where you're trying to be going, the distractors, the corner spiders. When you're almost on a path and something distracts you, and then you forget what you were doing, and you've taken off that path, and you may be years before you get back on that path again, just because of a slight distraction. But that distraction was put there for you, not by you, but for you to distract you.
Miss Pepper says, like, egregor. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah, but it's a spiritual thing. It's not a soul. A soul only records your life. The spirit doesn't get access to the soul. Not your own anyway. But your soul can get taken over by another spirit. That's why your soul needs to be able to high vibration, protected at all times, with pure love.
Our new friend Senja really wants you to tell us about the aliens.
About the aliens. The aliens. Well, there is, of course, Project Bluebeam. And if you've not looked into Project Bluebeam is a 30-year-old project by the military that is all about. Back then, they were talking about if they could create a hologram. This was before they even, came up with the idea that it's possible to create a hologram, that they could create a scenario where it would bring all the countries together, because that's what the world would need to create a certain one world government. A reaction from something out of this world, which would require everyone coming together. Even if we're in the middle of World War III, don't forget, which is also, some people say, are scripted as well. So if everything is scripted, there's another hidden purpose amongst all of this, So I deeply believe that there are no little green men from outer space that have been looking at us for many years. I believe that they are inner space. They are already here and already have been here. I believe that they are underground, subterranean. I believe they're under the water. We are spending all of our money on trying to go up and out, yet we've not explored the water.
Or even interdimensionally.
No, of course, that's interdimensionally is ridiculous on mainstream. We mustn't talk about that.
What do you know about the Greys?
Well, yes, again, it's a narrative like the blues. There are many different species, but yet again, I think that they are just maybe different energies more than anything else. Frequencies. If we're interdimensional, we're only talking about energies anyway, until they come into this materialistic realm where everything seems to become slowed down so much you turn into a solid thing, whereas we would be high vibrating in a different thought pattern. It would just be thought, interdimensionally.
Going back to an earlier subject, Miss Flipper had asked about succubus.
Mm-hmm.
So what you were explaining to her, and she said succubus.
Yeah, that's the 3-headed dog in Greek mythology. That's what it was. There are many dogs in mythology. You have the who was the two that were suckling on the wolf? It was the wolf bitch. What's their name?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Romulus and They were both brothers, but yes, his brother turned around and killed him at the last minute. It's all about death. It's all about deceiving. It's all about, until the last moment, another power comes along and you either join with that power and take it over. Remus, that was it. Thank you, Hayden. You know, I absolutely love Greek mythology. I think because it's spoken very much how, you know, Jesus was speaking in the Bibles. You know, it's a story behind every single one, and it's not just a story because you get the mental pictures that you put, you know, with it, and you can align your own story to it in some way.
Adam and I were talking Sunday. Plato's Cave, one of my all-time favorite allegories.
Yeah, I mean, solitude is something that we have to find ourselves, because in this world it is so hectic in just trying to make it through the day. You know, actually taking time out of your day is a sacred moment. You know, you are actually stopping with intent, you know, and that's a window of opportunity to get your downloads, to get your healing, to get your breathing, you know, to rebalance yourself, to earth yourself, you know. We forget to do that. We forget to do that so much, you know. Like now I am fully conscious that I'm pretty much nasal breathing when I'm not talking. You know, if I'm not talking, I'm just nasal breathing. And that's a conscious thing that I have tried to do for the last maybe 6 months. And it is like a muscle memory, but it's a thought memory.
Do you think you've carried it through nighttime now, the nasal breathing?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I sleep much better at night. If not for the back.
Oh, right. Let's see what else we got. All right, I'm glad that you addressed aliens. You and I are pretty much in line with the thought of that it's not life forces out there. There's really no out there. That it's an interdimensional or a what was the other term that you used?
Interdimensional.
Interdimensional.
Because we're looking at this, I think we're looking at it invertedly. I think to put someone off, you have to give them the furthest imagination to play with. So if you're saying they're coming from the furthest star and we're so insignificant, that really means that we're the center of everything and they're already here. Maybe they're the ones that are influencing everything, and there is this such thing as a harvesting our energy through fear, because that's what seems to be manipulated around the world at the moment. Everyone's showing their emotions for something that happened at one particular place at one time.
Right.
That's a very powerful ritual, just like the 9/11 ritual, which just so happened to be on the same day. Don't forget, Eric.
Huh, I didn't put that together.
Yeah. It's about the alignment and patterns. And when you see the alignments and patterns, you start to see the programming.
CC has a question. What's the question, CC? I think after CC's questions, we'll get ready to wrap it up. I know you wanted to make it an early night, and I can always use an early night.
Regarding the harvesting, it eventually short circuits itself. Exactly, Miss Pepper. There, I would have to say the oversoul is looking out for every single soul.
So
As a
CC's
collective.
question.
Sorry? CC. What rights do unnatural creations have in the universe? Unnatural creations, what rights? Like AI, like a robot?
Hey,
you give it any rights that you program it to have.
What
It's a command by who created it.
You know, I was talking to Tim about AI, but I don't think I've ever gotten your view on AI before.
I believe AI was here long before. They managed to take AI out of the atmosphere, as it were. They've managed to harness AI as an energy. It's still programmed at the moment. They call it general AI. But within 6 months, they reckon the next generation of AI, super intelligence, SI, will be what will make the programmers, the artists, the musicians, they will wake up and realize that they are no longer valued as an individual because their work has been taken. Just like actors, their face will be taken. They will no longer have to work ever again in their life. You can still have the film with your famous actor in it. They don't have to pay them. They don't have to have their arguments on film set. They don't have to have their huge, ridiculous ego list on stage to get their blue M&Ms. But that's what makes us individual. Yeah, AI will be taking all of this from everyone. Because it's greed at the end of the day.
Our dog has a question. Don't know what it is yet. Hey, sometime on one of our Tuesday nights, let's talk about machine elves.
Gremlins.
Actually,
I wouldn't
mind talking about machine elves. I wouldn't mind talking about elementals. I wouldn't mind talking about fairy folks and of the lake. Always felt very always felt very strong towards that.
Yeah, the notions of, where Lewis Carroll got his his mind from as well. You know, mythical, yet not so mythical. You know, characters made of cards.
Right.
You
How
know, a
could
talking rabbit.
how could everyone universally
Hi, Brian.
who licks the toad
Mm.
will see the same thing? They'll see the machine elves and receive information from them.
Mm.
Some might say it's a
There's a
universal archetype. Uh, people digging into collective consciousness, or is it just more simple? There are machine elves who are willing to give us information when we are willing to um, drop past the level of the ego and um, be receptive.
yeah, for sure. I can't talk about this on this one, but we
Right.
will go into. Yeah, I'm dying to let some knowledge out. But yeah, there was this experiment very recently. It's probably only 6 months old, where with a certain dose of substance that is used naturally in the world, um, made from bark of some certain trees. They were staring into a laser that was creating like a set laser, a builder's laser, and each subject wasn't told what they were doing beforehand. They basically had their dose, and they were asked to just have a look at the wall where the laser was shining, and all of them separately went very close to the wall and was staring efficiently at the laser, and all of them could see code, numbers, writing, symbols, but it was flowing just like you see in the Matrix film, all this code running down. And they were instantly, there were skeptics on there before them, you know, and instantly they had came through and dropped their ego. They were different people after it because they'd instantly seen something that you just couldn't really explain without seeing it yourself.
I don't think Eldog ever asked this question.
Something about the weights of planets or something, wasn't it?
Yep. There's no scale in the universe, planets, suns, galaxy, all different sizes, all the different sizes. Why can't aliens be microscopic?
Well, that's if you go along with, you know, all the planets and are actually places that you can visibly go to, and they're not just a frequency and energy source of themselves. You know, with we may be thinking on just one level, but I may be thinking on a completely different level from where planets and things above us actually are. But yes, I think microscopically there is a whole new thing that we need to look into. It's just life. Life is everywhere, no matter where you look.
Agreed with that.
Sometimes you don't have to look very far. Sometimes you think you have to look very hard. And usually that's when you're not looking.
All right. So, ready to wrap things up?
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Much
Thank you, everyone.
appreciated.
Thanks for lovely
Um,
questions.
You want one more from Miss Flipper? You can do it
Yeah,
yes
please.
or no. Do you
Yeah.
agree with as above, so below?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In the dualistic sense that it's all one. You know, it has to be together. It can only be one. But it means of two parts. Therefore, they both have to be simultaneous, connected. There isn't one without the other. Yet we don't know that. We down here, we're walking about, we don't know why we're feeling this way. But if you do look at your planetary signs, you will work it out why you're feeling this way. We will have to do some geomancing with the 16 stones, ruins.
Okay. I'm in for
That's
that.
for another day. That's for another day. Very much like Lucy's cards, but it's just marks on a bit of paper. It's the most simplest, basic. It's one or a two. You either are growing, or you are equal, or you are losing.
You ever do
You're going from a 1 to a 2, a 1 to a 1, a 2 to a 2, or a 2 to a 1. When you put out the two cards or two stones with the markings on.
Right.
And there are 16 stones. But for any question that you give, there are 4 parts to the answer because there are 4 markings on the stone, whether it's a 1 or a 2. There are 4 lots of markings. And you judge the first one is now, as in the question that you're asking, and the second one is the answer. And you evaluate the difference between the two. It's very primitive, but it's for an individual question with intent. You know, it's very much like dowsing, but you're using the ruins to answer your questions.
Right. All right. Thank you, Sniper.
Pleasure.
Much appreciated. I'm sure I will see you tomorrow, and we will definitely continue conversation in this vein wherever we might go next Tuesday for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. Silent or loud question. Either. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what question you give. It's the intent when you pick it out. You know, there are 16 stones in this pot or a jug or whatever, just like Miss Blipper's fishbowl.
Yeah.
You know. On the back, Tories flying through space. There you go.
Isn't
Tim's off.
that Greg Bear?
Greg
Did he
Bear.
do the Discworld series?
Yeah, Terry Pratchett.
Right. Terry Pratchett. Yeah. Gotcha.
Terry Pratchett. Yeah, he brought that kind of out, and you've got to know about the Flat Earth Society. You see, now if you're going to have something that questions the globe, okay, because if this is the narrative that is being played, that everyone has been taught that we live on a sphere from a very young age, there has to be some counter argument, and of course you need to control the counter argument as well. And so the Flat Earth Society was created, and it's the only society that is mentioned by any president. So if you are interested in the Flat Earth, you would automatically type in the Flat Earth Society, and you will get all this spill on what they want you to believe, that Flat Earth is a concept and it's a flat pancake floating in space. Well, none of the real flat earthers believe space is even possible. So to just substitute one planet to another planet is how that they want you to, be ridiculed by. But of course, it's just a concept that there is anything underneath Earth, because Earth isn't even a planet; it's a realm.
Right.
And even the courts see Earth as a realm, nothing else. I don't think the word planet is in the Bible either. It's always a realm.
Right. All right. So I always like the directions that we take. Never know exactly where it's going to go. It's always fun to explore. Hey, Mom Dog. So thank you again,
It's
Sniper.
always good to have a question,
Yes.
even if you don't find the answer.
Yeah, that was
You've
another.
asked the question. That
Right.
was half of the answer is asking the question. It's actually being able to have a talk and not diss something that goes against a belief.
Right. This is true. One of the things that I'm seeking to do is bring people up to talk who don't necessarily fit in with my own practices, that don't necessarily fit in with the I don't want to say beliefs, but even with practice, just a different thought system than my own, where I find myself this moment. In order to, for one, you never know what's going to resonate with someone else. My message is certainly not the message for everyone. Or actually, I'll take that back, because I think you and I share the same message, but there's different ways of getting there. Oh wow, nice visitor.
Yeah. There you go. I'll just let him out. There you go. He's saved for another day.
So yeah, it's good to have, as CC said, the different perspectives. Or the way I like to think of it is different avenues of exploring the same end result that we all get to.
Yeah. But we were talking about truths the other day, and I think you were saying, what is a truth? Well, from what I can see, I said a lie requires a lot of defending, but the truth can be seen in many different perspectives.
Agreed. All right, so let's wrap things up. Just said you got an early day. Get some rest.
Yeah, I'm up early.
Yep.
Take care, guys.
Me too.
Night, Eric.
Good night. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up too. Big thanks to Squirrel Sniper coming up every Tuesday. Guys, if you want to present him with topics, always let him know in the chat. He's here all the time. So let him know what you would like him to cover. And I'm sure that he would be accommodated. He's a man of varied and wide interests, and it all goes really deep. So make sure that you tune in every Tuesday. Thursday night, Lucy's going to be pulling cards. Normally she does it Thursday afternoons, but this Thursday, my friend James Plath, author of The Gospel of Astonishment, is going to come up and he's going to take us on a ride. He is, man, I love the way his mind works. Friday, my friend, the yogi of all yogis, Tom Thompson, he's been doing this stuff for 60 plus years. He has sat at the feet and rubbed shoulders with some of the greatest yogic meditation masters, lineage dating back thousands of years. Going to talk specifically about Eckhart Tolle's The Pain Body, as well as he'll answer some questions on Kundalini, if you have any. As well as probably meditation. As I said with him, we'll see where it takes us. On I forget what day, Saturday, I believe. Our friend Anna Maria is going to come up and we're going to talk sobriety. And then I believe next Tuesday, Goga is going to come up. It's going to be fun. We'll see who else might want to come up and talk with us. I keep reaching out. We'll see what they say. Hey, Legendary Princess. I hope you have a good night too, my friend. Lisa says, are we doing better with advice spread? If it's needed for each question, including general. If it's needed. Thank you, Lucy. Appreciate the fact that you keep growing and you keep offering to all of us. Thank you to our pups. All right, guys. Love you. And I will see you tomorrow, 5 a.m. Take care.